I'm Roger Montgomery from Montgomery Investment Management, and welcome to this week's Video Insight. The just concluded reporting season for FY23 unveiled a juxtaposition. While in aggregate, results suggested our economy was resilient until June, deeper undercurrents suggest corporate earnings growth is slowing, and we might be on the brink of a more extended recovery. On the bright side, companies recorded robust revenues, often surpassing their own projections. Company profits grew 2% year on year versus expectations of 0.5% growth. Indeed, more companies beat expectations than missed by a factor of 5 to 3, or 167% of the companies that missed expectations beat expectations. However, that silver lining is clouded by the fact that many businesses highlighted the number one challenge being cost growth, specifically from labour, rent, energy and domestic transport, and a few companies mentioned IT or technology as well. We also saw companies generally offer relatively soft guidance for 2024. In fact, revenues appreciably slowed in the second half, and that slowing continued into the first half of 2024. Consequently, the number of companies that downgraded guidance for FY24 exceeded those upgrading by 3 to 2. The consequence of this has been sell-side analysts revising down their expectations for FY24 profit growth to minus 5.7%. And to put that number in perspective, 6 months ago, consensus forecasts were for 0.7% growth, and last month it was minus 0.8%. So there's been a serious deterioration in expectations from the beginning of reporting season to its conclusion. Looking at sectors, we saw the building materials companies, think Boral and James Hardie for example, calling out a weaker demand environment and consequently cost out programs. It's worth remembering, however, that the outlook for residential construction is probably going to improve. The reason I say that is we know apartment completions are 50% of what they were in 2018 and rental vacancies around the country are less than 2%. But demand's going to rise with population growth. Rents are rising by 10% and consequently property prices are rising again. We also saw investors adding to their retail exposure. Companies like Nick Scali have been able to forward sell their furniture at stable prices but are receiving better shipping rates. Elsewhere in retail, several companies cited Chinese manufacturers offering discounts as the Chinese economy slows down. Obviously, those manufacturers want to put more product through their factories, but they can't do it relying on the domestic economy and the rest of the world slowing down. So they're offering discounts to achieve that aim. And that's helped companies to maintain their margins. We also saw companies in the retail space, those linked to renovations, such as Adairs and JB Hi-Fi's Good Guys business, call out a more material slowdown in demand. Adairs saw group sales up 10% year on year, but group gross margins were down 100 basis points, and Adairs branded stores posted EBIT that was down 37%. Keep in mind, renovations generally follow housing turnover by 10 months, and furnishing those renovations follows renovation activity by about 6 months. In other words, the low levels of housing turnover 18 months ago is now being felt. And perhaps a little surprisingly, Super Retail Group's Super Cheap Auto business has become a defensive play after the company noted the tougher economic conditions meant many people were cleaning, repairing and restoring their cars themselves. DIY is back. Finally, with respect to retail companies, we saw better companies, those with what I describe as higher quality businesses, for example Breville, JB Hi-Fi and Supercheap's Rebel business, reduce inventory in response to the softening demand. This has helped with cash flow and balance sheet strength. In fact, I would say quite a few businesses boasted about being able to reduce inventory successfully in a slowing growth environment. Interestingly, small caps outperformed larger companies. The Small Ordinaries was up 1.5% since June 30, while the ASX 100 was down 0.75%. Small caps really did show their benefit, the benefit, I guess, of those long runways and the ability to be nimble in a slowing environment. For the Australian economy, there's a note of caution. As demand wanes, companies that aren't able to cleverly reduce inventory or improve efficiency in other ways may need to lay off staff. The repercussions for the economy would be noticeable were that to happen. Wrapping up reporting season, it's clear investors are treading with caution. This has followed outlook statements from companies, many of whom were reluctant to stick their necks out and offer a forecast. The main concern is the fear that a potential economic downturn combined with those cost pressures might adversely impact profits and subsequently stock prices. Well, that leaves me with thinking you need to focus on quality more than anything else in this environment. And that's all we've got time for today. In the meantime, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll talk to you again next week.